You open your mail, look at your monthly utility bill, and stare at a shocking red number that keeps creeping higher. You haven't bought any new appliances. You haven't changed your daily routine. Yet millions of American households are paying significantly more for power than they did just a few years ago. For decades, electricity was one of the most reliable, predictable, and frankly boring lines in a household budget. You used a certain amount of power, you paid a modest fee, and the lights stayed on. Recently, that stability has vanished. Across the country, from the Sun Belt to the Northeast, families are watching their monthly energy costs climb at an alarming rate, compounding year after year. Because these increases are appearing in nearly every state simultaneously, the cause appears to be systemic. This universal rise points to a shift in the massive macro systems operating behind the scenes of the American grid. The natural reaction to a high bill is to assume someone left the air conditioning running all day or forgot to turn off the lights. However, a higher total often has little to do with your personal habits. Modern bills are increasingly dominated by the complex physical reality of producing and delivering power to your home. If you look closely at this breakdown of a modern utility statement, the charges split into two separate buckets. One is your actual kilowatt-hour usage, the literal electricity your home consumes. The other is infrastructure and delivery. That second bucket is expanding. Utilities are pouring capital into major grid overhauls, routed directly into your delivery fees. Every payment today includes a hidden surcharge for an invisible physical system. You are funding a massive infrastructural upgrade built directly into the cost of your power. A vast majority of America's electrical infrastructure was constructed in the mid-20th century. The physical backbone of our power grid is incredibly old. The original transmission lines, power plants, transformers, and substations that electrified the country were engineering marvels of their time. However, these materials were designed with strict operational lifespans. Today, decades after they were installed, millions of miles of those original components are reaching their expiration dates all at once. The result is severe physical decay. Utilities nationwide are dealing with corroded hardware, failing insulators, and degraded wiring that can no longer safely handle daily loads. Replacing this equipment is a monumental logistical challenge, requiring billions of dollars in new steel, copper, and specialized labor to modernize the network. Under the regulated system, power companies do not simply absorb these upgrade costs. They petition state regulators to approve rate hikes, transferring the exact cost of the new infrastructure directly onto the consumer. A large portion of your elevated monthly bill operates as a retroactive maintenance fee, a nationwide effort to replace 20th century engineering before it fails. That aging system is now facing violent, unpredictable stressors from extreme weather. As summer heat waves become more intense and prolonged in many regions, millions of air conditioners kick on simultaneously. This creates massive, sudden surges in electricity demand that stretch the grid to its absolute limit. Winter storms pose a dangerous dual threat. They drive up power demand as people try to heat their homes, while the ice and wind are actively physically destroying the very infrastructure meant to deliver it. To prevent collapse during these extremes, utilities have to build for peak capacity. They are forced to construct expensive additional power plants and transmission lines capable of handling a massive weather surge, even if those systems sit completely idle for 10 months of the year. You are paying to fund those multi-billion-dollar emergency buffers. Your rates absorb the cost of overbuilding the grid just to prevent catastrophic regional blackouts during the worst few weeks of the year. The focus is also shifting from how power is delivered to how it is generated. America is currently channeling massive capital into a transition toward cleaner energy sources, with new installations overtaking the landscape. While the goal is long-term reliability and reduced emissions, solar farms, wind networks, and large-scale battery storage facilities require immense upfront capital to construct. Those initial spending requirements hit consumer bills long before the financial benefits of cheap renewables are fully realized. This transition is colliding with another historic force: a massive surge in new electricity demand, arriving at the exact moment the legacy grid is at its weakest. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence requires enormous data centers. These facilities pack thousands of powerful computer chips into dense warehouses, consuming vast amounts of continuous power and water for cooling. Simultaneously, domestic and industrial consumption is scaling up. Millions of drivers are plugging in electric vehicles at home, while factories increasingly rely on automated manufacturing lines that run entirely on electricity. This chart illustrates the core economic collision. We have a steady supply line representing physical infrastructure, rapidly overtaken by an exponential demand curve from tech and electrification. The widening gap creates intense upward pressure on the retail price of electricity. This imbalance between our current supply and this massive data-driven surge creates a permanent floor for electricity prices. Every bill helps fund a rapid expansion of the nation's energy capacity to meet these new requirements. Because most electrical utilities operate as regulated monopolies, they don't have to absorb the financial risk of these major projects. The multi-billion-dollar check is inevitably passed directly to the ratepayer. But the pain of these rising costs is not distributed equally across the country. The impact on your personal finances depends entirely on where you live. Different states have different regulatory boards, unique mixtures of fuel sources like natural gas or wind, and varying rates of population growth. Ultimately, local geography and state politics dictate whether these infrastructure costs manifest as a minor inconvenience in your budget or a severe financial shock. Looking ahead to the next decade, as artificial intelligence expands and transportation moves further toward the grid, the long road ahead guarantees that electricity demand will only increase. Because of this, electricity is positioned to command a much larger percentage of the average American household budget than it has at any point in modern history. While it is easy to focus on short-term price fluctuations, the reality of your rising bill is the difficult, expensive cost of a complete structural overhaul. The next time you look at your bill, realize that every dollar is an investment in a necessary transformation. America is paying for the survival and expansion of its entire energy system.